In this second part of lesson 4, we'll try to learn how to break the silence, which means how to stop being submissive, especially when no one is trying to dominate us. In psychology, it's a very common strategy to represent behavior as the triangle we're looking at on the screen, and then we can analyze this triangle, the behavior, from 3 different levels of analysis. One would be the cognitive one, meaning what do we think about things in general, and especially what do we say to ourselves in specific moments. For example, when interacting with someone who's not an ML speaker. The second level would be the level of communication. It's known technically as the motor level, observable behavior, which is what do we do. So do we speak? Do we keep silent? Do we go away? Do we go forward? Whatever can be observed by someone who's outside us. And then the third level would be the physiological one, in short, the emotions we feel. So how do we feel when we find ourselves in one of these situations? If you have a look on the arrows, you will see that all levels are interconnected, meaning if you change one of them, the other 2 will change as well. But this means that we will act on the cognitive and the communication level in order to change the emotional level. So we'll try to learn what to think and what to do in order to feel better whenever we are in one of these interlinguistic interactions. Let's go back to the green layer. So at first sight, what happens when we are in front of someone and we have to decide which language will we use? So we are the only obstacles to use our own language in this level. So the cognitive resources are pretty simple. We should challenge our own prejudices. So how do I know he's not an ML speaker? And we could also use a simple self-instruction, such as let's try it. And then for communication resources, I would say just speak nice and clear and pay attention to the others. With this, it's enough to overcome this first level of interaction. Then what happens if someone shows poor understanding? For example, says sorry or I beg your pardon. So the cognitive resources are also very simple, and again we've got to challenge our own prejudices. Saying what, asking for a repetition, doesn't mean necessarily ignoring the language. So the self-instruction could be just I'll express myself clearly, and the communication resources would be just repeating, or even repeating slowly, speaking louder and clearer if necessary, and maybe getting some feedback. Do you understand me, for example? It's pretty simple, and with that we can also overcome this second layer without renouncing to speak our own language. Then we would move into the third level. We are in front of someone who's speaking our language, but we identify them as non-native speakers. So the cognitive resources again would imply challenging our own prejudices. We have to know that there are people who speak poorly, who would like to learn or are in the process of learning our language, and then they are not still able to speak it properly. And then the self-instructions could go on the lines of I might be helping them out, and let's keep in the language and see how it goes. Remember that you always have the capacity to switch into dominant language, so just don't hurry up to do that. For communication resources, I would say just speak as clear as you can, get feedback, ask them if they are willing to for you to speak slower or clearer or whatever. And there is something called response prevention, which means anticipating troubles that can be in the near future. So you can just say them, if there's anything you don't understand, please let me know. And then you can translate into the dominant language, or you can just repeat or explain or whatever. So in summary, we have learned how to be assertive in very simple situations in which speaking or not our own language, it depends exclusively on us. Remember, green layers. So the main enemy is our own prejudices, and we can overcome them just by asking ourselves the appropriate questions. And then we've learned some simple cognitive and communication resources that might help us.